What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I do indeed have a little bit more information regarding Xdefiant, some release dates, and also what's going on with the overall game, courtesy of course, the Lord and Savior, Mark Rubin. I'm just playing, but he really is an absolute go-to dev. He does a fantastic job with communicating with his community, keeping people up to date, so we're going to cover everything that he has to say, and I think it's going to bring a lot of light to the situation that they're in, and show a lot of positivity as well, and gives us a little bit more confirmation that things are going to turn out good, at least at the end of the day, and it's not really anything to go ahead and worry about. But of course, before we go ahead and dive deep into the commentary, I do want to mention, as I usually do, if you guys enjoyed what you hear today, you want to hear some more commentaries that revolve around stuff like this, Xdefiant, or even Call of Duty, we do all types of different videos, commentaries, live gameplays, comparisons, all of the above. Don't forget, subscribe, hit that bell. We post pretty much daily over on here at 8 in the morning Eastern time, and today is the day that we are returning to streaming. We'll be over on Kick, so if you guys want to check that out, hang out, get some good vibes, we have the link to that channel along with all my other socials like Twitter and Discord down in the description of this video. But without further ado, let's get right into this video. Now, first and foremost, I want to go ahead and talk about the topic of shadow dropping when it comes to Xdefiant. I mentioned this a couple of videos, actually not a couple, I think it was my last video I made about Xdefiant. I was going ahead and talking about this, whether it's a good idea to shadow drop or if it's a better idea to actually have a real release date. We had some pretty good comments under that video, a lot of good ideas, a lot of good concepts. Again, I always appreciate when you guys go down in the comment section and leave your opinions. It's always a blast because that's the whole point of content creation, right? You know, starting up a community and seeing what the community even has to say. That's the whole fun of this. But the other day, Mark Rubin did come out and give us a little confirmation that we are indeed not going to be getting a shadow dropped title. You can see right here saying, I feel it too. He was responding, obviously, to another tweet on Twitter. I wish it were coming out this weekend, but we have to abide by the process, and we won't be shadow dropping it, so you will have time to preload, etc. Again, a lot of people were expecting, because they did just recently, this weekend, have a tournament for Xdefiant, which was pretty cool. It's nice to see stuff like this. I enjoy when a game is able to, keep that momentum that it had. I know a lot of people are thinking that this game is dying out, but honestly, I don't think it is. It has pretty good hype behind it, and as we always say on this channel, it's definitely not going to kill COD, but I think for the first time in a long time, we will have a competitor, something that's an alternative. It's not going to get everybody's interest, but at the end of the day, it's there, and I think people really enjoy it, to the point where it's even tournaments going on right now before the game is even launched, and these tournaments are getting tons of support. But that's, obviously aside the point. The point that I was trying to make there is that during this event, during this tournament, a lot of people thought that afterwards they're going to go ahead and either give a release date or, shadow drop it. Nothing happened, sadly. But as you could see from a little bit earlier when I posted that tweet, obviously, even though they didn't announce anything during the tournament, at least Mark Rubin gave us some more information. This, again, is why I love this man. I have to be honest with you. In any other scenario, if they did not mention release dates during a tournament or something like that, like Call of Duty, for example, if nothing was mentioned, you would never hear from any of the developers about what's going on. You would have no idea what the process behind the scenes is, why we're not getting a release date, what's happening. Nothing would ever be said if this was the case with a Call of Duty game or any other game, to be exact. I know I talk a lot about Call of Duty and Xdefiant on this channel. This is what my channel is mostly about. But this goes for every AAA game or a lot of games out there in general. It doesn't matter what genre you like, what franchise you like. A lot of games that are top dogs out there just aren't completely open with the process. And Mark Rubin, this is a AAA team, that's being funded by Ubisoft. And I know a lot of people have problems with Ubisoft, but still at the end of the day, it's not like it's an indie developed product here. And they are just beyond the point of open with us that he even openly said that it's not a shadow drop. At least that's a little bit more information for us in the direction that we will be getting an official release date. We're not going to be having this game pop out of the blue. It's not going to be a surprise drop. So if you're worried that's going to miss it because you're at work or you're at school or something of that sort, no, don't stress. Whenever the time comes when they give us a release date, that's when it will be, and you'll be able to know way ahead of time to preload it and get it all set up and ready to go. But Mark Rubin also put out another tweet here to a response from, other people on the internet. Again, a lot of toxic people out there, but as I always say, this is why we love the GOAT himself, Mark Rubin. A lot of developers cannot get through just the internet. They don't have a thick enough skin to handle all of this, because that's the problem. For a lot of content creators, we're used to this stuff. Every time I post a video, every time I put a tweet out, anytime I do anything, I know I'm going to get some type of hate for it. You have to have thick skin to do anything on the internet. It's just how it is. And a lot of these devs, they don't. They simply cannot handle what people say on the internet, and it stresses them out to a certain degree. And they just basically isolate themselves and just stop communicating. Mark Rubin, even throughout all the hate, all the crap, he gives such legitimate, just mature responses. And again, it's one of the main reasons why I really am hyped about this game, because the communication is just absolutely out of this world. But as you can see right here, Xdefiant Alerts actually went ahead and got this one up. Mark Rubin said, the reason is simple, that we don't have a date that we are sharing. When a game normally launches, it either just drops right after marketing starts, so the first you hear of it is after it's basically ready to go, or the date is targeted long in advance, and the team crunches. I don't want our team crunching, and instead of only marketing the game once it's nearly ready, we had people playing for almost 2 years before launch because we wanted to involve players early to have them be a part of the development. This is also another fantastic point on why I personally am not rushing these developers when it comes to Xdefiant, and I hope a lot of people take a chill pill when it comes to this game as well and stop trying to force them to do stuff that they're not comfortable with and that they're not ready to do. Mark Rubin's being very open here, and you would never see a developer ever say something of this sort, but this is legendary stuff right here. He basically is telling us that all these other AAA games, all these other companies, the reason that we don't hear this much communication is exactly what he said. Either the game is literally ready to ship, and they advertise it the second it's ready to ship and it's out the door, or they advertise it a little bit with a set date, already scheduled way ahead of time, and they can't change that set date. So the team has to literally crunch. They have to work their butts off to make sure they are on that date no matter what. There's no in-betweens. There's no make a game and, whenever you're ready, whenever it's polished off, you're good to go. When it comes to AAA teams, at least. When it's indie developed, obviously they can take as much time as they possibly need. But when it comes to AAA games, it's one or the other. Either the game is basically ready to launch and then they advertise it. They don't do anything way ahead of time. They don't have any set dates. No, they literally wait until the game is basically ready. They advertise it, drop. Or they have a set date and they have to crunch to make sure they hit that set date. Mark Rubin doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to stress out the developers, and he wants to make sure the product releases in a good form. And if they release a release date, it's done. It's over. And they never confirmed summer. That's the thing. A lot of us, including myself, were a little bummed out, especially if it doesn't launch by the end of this month. I think it honestly will, because the game has been in a good state. But at the end of the day, summer is a very general term instead of saying, on the 23rd of this month. Because if they say the 23rd of this month, they have to release it at that date. Well, they don't have to. They could push it back. But guess what happens when you push back a product? More and more hate. Every single time. It's crazy because people have the backwards mindset. Usually when you push back a product, that's a good thing, as long as it's not too many times, because it means you're going to get a better product. But people have the mindset that if you push back a product, they have to wait longer, and they'd much rather take a crappier product. That's usually how it goes. So pushing back a date can lose a lot of hype and a lot of love. So what Mark Rubin is trying to do here is he's trying to make sure the game maintains that hype by not releasing a date, but still allowing people to get it. It's like a mix of the both things, right? He allowed people to hop into the experience, try it out, test it, but he's not giving an official date as well because he wants to make sure that the game can be polished off before. At the end of the day, it's a nice middle ground, and what he's doing for his team is very respectable because it's not going to make them feel like they're forced to push this out the window at a specific time. They can relax, they can breathe, and they can put together the game. But then a problem arises because of this, and I think a lot of the community and a lot of you guys are probably thinking the same thing right now as well. What about the Call of Duty drops? Now, I actually saw a tweet under one of these posts from Mark Rubin that I thought was really interesting. It was from Cameos being responded by IXO Designer. Cammy said, thing is, with COD coming out next month and this game still not being out, having a release date, is going to kill the game. Because if it doesn't release until October, it's going to be popular for a few weeks until COD comes out, then nobody will probably play. And again, IXO Design says, COD is garbage, I'd much rather play this. And Cammy responds saying, see, that's the thing. You say that, but as soon as the next game comes out, it's going to be a different story. It's going to exceed in sales from the previous title, and player base happens every year. And that's kind of the truth. It's the harsh reality of things. And I do want this game to succeed beyond belief, but it's true, A lot of people are going to say, yeah, screw COD. We're not going to play COD. COD's over, Xdefiant for the win. But I guarantee over half the people who will say that, once the game drops, it's bad. It's an addiction. It's a cycle. It literally happens every year. You watch people say the same thing, they're done with it, and then they end up copying the next Call of Duty game. Once the hype, starts up, once the game releases. And I know I'm not talking for everybody, because there's a lot of people that I've seen people comment, and I've made friends with a lot of you guys on social media who have gone years without purchasing a Call of Duty game, and respect to you. But I'm talking about the massive majority. You can't tell me that Call of Duty is not going to be a top seller next year. You can't tell me that Call of Duty is not going to get insane player counts. You can't tell me that because it's just not factual. I would love for that not to be the case, right? Because we want Call of Duty to suffer a little bit so they open their eyes. But in reality, if we're being extremely realistic here, it's going to top everything across the board. So I have to be honest, Call of Duty is going to be a harsh point when it comes to Xdefiant, and if this game cannot release before Call of Duty, it will hinder some of its success. But will it kill the game? I don't think so. I truthfully don't. I think Xdefiant has a hardcore enough fan base behind it that is willing to give this game a full-on go. And even though I don't think a lot of people on the internet who are saying, hyping up this game are going to stick with it, I really don't. I still think there's enough people out there who have been craving an arcade-ish style of game. And even though Call of Duty will succeed, this is how I see it, panning out. I guarantee that Warzone will be the bread and butter from now on when it comes to Call of Duty, and Xdefiant could potentially take that 6v6 crown. Will it take over Call of Duty? No, Call of Duty will still probably, triumph over a lot of other games in this industry. But I think a lot of 6v6 fans, unless Sledgehammer can turn things around, but I'm not having my hopes up again. We've been screwed over so many times. I'm not getting finessed. I'll wait until the game comes out and I'll actually see with my own eyes. But for the time being, with how Call of Duty's track record has been looking, I have much more faith that Xdefiant can pull something out that is more traditional for 6v6 fans, and that's what's going to help it thrive. Call of Duty is being spread too thin between too many different game modes that it just can't have its own identity, whereas Xdefiant has one identity, and that's arena shooter, and it can branch off later on in its life cycle. I'm not saying it can't ever have a BR, it can't ever have an extraction, but right now they're focusing on what makes it good, an arena shooter, and the best part about it is that this game is going to be launching Xdefiant 2 and Xdefiant 3 and Xdefiant 4 every single year. It's going to be a game that's going to last for ages, so if they do ever introduce a battle royale experience, that's not going to make the core gameplay of this game suffer, because they're not changing anything, right? Whereas Call of Duty, they're releasing a game every single year. Modern Warfare 2019, when it came to Warzone, the multiplayer was drastically influenced by the Warzone scene. The majority of all the stuff that's been introduced in the 6v6 was because it had to fit within Warzone. That's not the case with Xdefiant. If they do anything else, the other gamers are going to have to bounce off of what Xdefiant already is, not the other way around. But, of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you hated it, leave a dislike. As always, leave a comment down below about how you feel about all this information. Like I always say, I love hearing your guys' opinions. It's the best part about content creation, so fill up the comments section. And don't forget, subscribe, hit that bell if you want to be notified on all these videos we post daily over on here at 8 in the morning Eastern Time. And last but not least, as I always mention, we are streaming today over on Kick. So if you guys want to check that out, the link to that with all my other socials, like I said in the beginning of this video, are down in the description of this video. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for checking out this commentary. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.